Good morning, everyone, and this is Alessandro, and I'm here from Sano because we are starting a series of talk more in the style of podcasts related to technology transfer, how to move from research to creating companies or moving something in the real world, not necessarily a company, maybe something just licensing or going as fast as possible to the real world. And today we have I hope I pronounced it correctly, Wiktor Zołnowski. So my Polish is still rudimental. Who is the CEO of Pragmatic Coders, which is a famous software house from Krakow. At least from what I know, is specializing fast launching and going, as I was telling you, as fast as possible to the real world. So maybe Wiktor, if you want to introduce better, what is Pragmatic Coders?
Sure. Welcome everyone. My name is Wiktor Zołnowski. It's not your Polish, it's just my last name, which is pretty hard to be spelled. As you mentioned, I'm CEO of Pragmatic Coders, which is a software house where we build mainly startups, but also we work with bigger product companies. We specialize mainly in medtech and fintech areas, but we also do a lot of other things. And also, I'm recently a founder of a fresh startup that I started working on a couple of months ago, and hopefully today or tomorrow we'll launch our first version to the production, and I can also share the story of this startup too with you. But regarding Pragmatic Coders, it's a great pleasure to be here, and it's a great pleasure to be here today because today, August 17, is a day that 9 years ago Pragmatic Coders started. So today we celebrate our 9th anniversary of starting Pragmatic Coders. So it's a great day to be here and to talk about Pragmatic Coders and other things with you.
And maybe if I want to go a bit like deeper, because the idea is how things started. It's not a pitch for investors, but more if you can say, why did you create this company and how?
Yeah, so the story is a little bit longer. Yeah, it started like a few years before we started Pragmatic Coders because I used to be my career started as a software tester, QA engineer. I was, I believe, 21 years old when I started working in IT. And I was working as a software tester, and I was working for a couple of companies where I noticed that whatever I do actually doesn't matter because I'm only controlling the quality or testing the quality of the products, but the real quality is created before the testing phase. So I haven't felt the impact on the quality of the end up product because I can only check it, verify, and then ask other people, developers, programmers, to fix the issues, and then I retest them, etc. So I've started looking for better ways of doing products, software products, digital products, and that way I found out, I heard about something like, or read about something called Scrum, and then something called Agile, and it occurred that Agile way of building products, or later on Lean product development, were methods or approaches that were way more efficient, and especially way more efficient in terms of the quality, but also way more efficient in terms of the value delivered to the end customers. So I started learning myself, I started learning about these methods. And after some time, I started working for a company that was using Scrum, and that was one of the very first Polish companies. Like, I don't remember, there was maybe 6 or 7 companies in Poland at that time that was using Scrum. The company was, the name of the company was called Sprinters. It was also a software development company similar to Pragmatic Coders, a little bit smaller. There was, like, in the best moment, maybe 16, 17 people. But we were really, truly agile company, truly Scrum company. And that was a couple of years when I learned a lot about how to do software, how to do software products, in a much better way than I used to face in my previous job. Unfortunately, during the 2008 crisis, the company almost went bankrupt, and I had to leave and start working somewhere else. But the things that I learned then was resulted in a way that it appears that there are not so many professionals on the market who has this knowledge. So I started training other people how to work in an agile Scrum way, and I became a trainer. Later on, I became a consultant. I started my own consulting business, and then the CodeSprinters founder and the brand invited me to join CodeSprinters again as a partner, and together we grew CodeSprinters as a training and consulting company, and that was the let's say my first business that I truly grew. And coming to the Pragmatic Coders, how Pragmatic Coders started. So when I was a trainer and consultant at CodeSprinters, we had an opportunity to work with, I once counted it, it was like more than 150 companies in Poland and Europe that I was working one way or another. I had people on my trainings. I've been providing custom trainings or consulting for those companies in a couple of years. So I had an opportunity to watch how the software is built in those companies. And I've noticed that those companies have similar problems similar problems to those that I faced at the beginning of my career. So I said, okay, so if everyone, in a quote, because it's not true, now I know that, since everyone is doing the software not in the right way, so it must be extremely easy to start a company that will be doing that in the right way. At the end of the day, a couple of years later, I noticed that the companies that are hiring consultants and require trainings are not all of the companies in the market. Those are only those companies who are in need of this kind of services. And who is in need of this kind of services? Those companies that face some problems, some issues. And there's plenty of other companies that do not face this kind of problems or issues, or they are facing it, but they are able to fix these issues, solve these problems on their own. But up then, it was something around 2014 or 13, I was convinced that all of the companies in the world have the same issues. So if we start a company that will work in a better way, will outcompete everyone else. And this is actually how the Pragmatic Coders started. My business partner and my old friend from high school, he also started career in IT in pretty the same time as I did, and he also joined me as a consultant. So we had like similar background, similar experience. We've seen similar problems in the world, and together we decided if there will be an opportunity to start a software company, software development company, we should chase it. We should start it. We have enough competencies to actually create such a company and do this in the right way. And fortunately, pretty soon after we had this discussion over a beer, somewhere between the trainings that we provided to our clients, pretty soon one of my clients for whom I was providing a training in Warsaw, he asked me, okay, he said, like, I remember it was like a continuous delivery or something like this training. He asked me if I know any software house that is actually working that way. And I said to him that, you know what, I don't know any software house that's working that way, but if you really need people who will work that way and who will work that way on your product, I can set up such a software house in, let's say, 2 months. And he said, like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's talk to the CEO. That guy was, let's say, he wasn't CEO, it was like head of delivery. And he said, like, okay, let's go to the CEO. And I said, okay, guys, but I have like a 20 minutes before my train to Krakow, so let's make it quick. Okay, so we like talk somewhere in the corridor, like we didn't even go to the meeting room or anywhere. I was talking to the CEO. I told him the story. This head of delivery told him that I provided the awesome training for their people, and the CEO said, "Okay, you have 2 months. Let's see what will happen in 2 months. You came with a team. We'll give you another 3 months to test you, and after those 3 months, we will decide if we will continue cooperation or not." And that happened exactly like this. Like when I went out from this office, I called my friends and asked him, "Okay, Marcin, I had a client for our services, and maybe we should start this business. What do you think?" And Marcin said to me that, "Well, yeah, sure, no problem. I just took a loan and built a flat. It's a great moment to change my job. And like, why not and start new business? Let's take this risk and let's see what will happen." But he asked me, "Okay, so but what will be the technology that we'll be using there?" I said, "Python." And asked him, "Okay, I know that you don't know Python." I said, "Well, it can't be difficult. I can learn it in 2 months." So I said, "Okay, let's do this." We also I also called my third partner at the time, who was a really good Python developer. So we had this knowledge on board, and we started a business. Yeah, like exactly 9 years ago was the first day that we started working for a client. Exactly 9 years ago, we went to Warsaw to visit this client to start an onboarding procedure and work that way. And later on, we like make a lot of mistakes, a lot of other things to grow the business and acquire new customers, new clients.
So if I can summarize, so you were working, you've seen a need, and you started as a consultant. So you were like providing services. It's not that you were creating a tool and selling it.
Yeah.
And then on the way, you super quickly you created like I guess the LTD, which is in Poland is like SPZO, and then grow from there.
Well, in terms of the formal part, I think it's also interesting because for the first almost 2 years we haven't had any LTD. It was just my own company and the promise to my business partners that when we will start an LTD, we'll share the shares equally. Yeah. So at the very beginning,
even more like just started,
yeah.
then we'll see.
Then we'll figure it out. Yeah, like when it really works, we will figure it out how to do this better. Yeah.
Okay, and then I mean you kind of also already replied, but just to put some order. So the other founders from Pragmatic Coders were these consultant guys. They were doing.
One of them, Marcin, was a consultant together with me. He was also working as a software developer. Like he was only part-time consulting and providing also a training. And Marek, who was the third co-founder, he was actually a brilliant software developer with whom I used to work for in.
But they were already people from your network. It's not that you
Yes.
need to find no someone in marketing and you had to go I don't know some events or whatever platform to find a guy. So they were people from your network.
Yes, exactly. So at least in this case, in case of Pragmatic Coders, that was people from my network. Later on, I can tell you a story of starting my new startup, and that's a pretty different story. But yeah, let's maybe talk.
So you had the new one. I don't know if you can even say the name or we keep it secret.
No, it's not secret. It's already. Hopefully, it will be today on the production. The app will be in the Play Store. It's called Healthfolder Teczka-Pacjenta.pl. It's a startup, medical medtech startup for people who like there are three groups of people. One group is people who are chronically ill and they need to store their medical documentation in some digitalized way. And the issue that the problem that we are solving is that all of the medical documentation right now, especially in Poland, is pretty defragmented and distributed among many facilities, and there is no one place where a patient and also the doctor can actually take a look at the holistic view on the patient. So that's the one group. The second group are people who are like parents or people who wanna be parents and wanna have a baby. So they also have a lot of medical documentation. They also track their physical health and other stuff. And the third group are people who are this is like a growing group of people right now, regular people who are not ill. They are not expecting kids or having kids, but they are simply taking care of their health and want to monitor their like physical status regularly. So Teczka Pacjenta or health folder, Teczka Pacjenta is a Polish name for this app. This is like a medical, like digital medical documentation folder that is supported with AI and few other.
Like Dog Planner or something.
Dog Planner is a little bit different.
Wait,
Because
the same family, like.
Yeah, but pretty like the medtech.
And you were saying this one you had different stories how to find the
Yeah.
people.
So yeah, so in this case, actually, the story of the startup started when last year I was diagnosed with the cancer. But no worries, I'm okay right now. Fortunately, the diagnosis was pretty early, and like I made all of the things that I should make at the time. So quick surgery and everything went good. Fortunately, I'm still under observation, but everything looks good. So there's no problem to and no need to worry. But in this case, like when I started, because I faced this issue with this medical documentation, that this paper folder that I had with all of my medical documentation, and searching through this paper folder during any doctor visit took like 10 minutes to find one parameter that's interesting for this doctor. So I decided to digitalize and do this in a better way. And I started looking, when I started looking for investors, the investors told me that it might be good if you will have some doctors that will join you. So it won't be like one crazy IT guy who wants to solve the medical problem, but there is someone else who has this medical background and actually know the industry and etc. So the fun part was that it was also an accident how I found the co-founder or partner or advisor. In this case, it was during one of my control visits into the surgeon who performed the surgery on me. I was after he finished like all of this control stuff. I asked him what did he think about the startup, and he said that sounds interesting. And when I was going out from the room, he said, "Well, can we talk a little bit about your startup? Because I'm really interested. If you will need any help, I would like to join and help you somehow." And I was like, "Whoa, sounds great!" And also that fits to the pitch and to the story of the start as well. So I think that in both of the stories, there's one thing that is common for both of them, is that. And I was doing it all of my life, and like also the story that I mentioned with code sprinters and how I started consulting, and how I later on became the partner of code sprinters and how I grew this company. All of the stories have something in common, is that I was always a person who is unconsciously looking for opportunities. Yeah, like or maybe not also looking for them, but seeing opportunities where people were not seeing any, like in all of these cases, like starting Pragmatic Coders, we had this conversation before with my current business partner, and then the colleague, that we maybe one day start this kind of company. But if we hadn't this conversation, I wouldn't have the idea that I can answer the question when someone asks me if I know any software house, that I wouldn't answer the question that I can create one. So I believe that searching for this kind of opportunities, also when I had a diagnosis of cancer, when I get back to normal, I've also I seen this problem, and then I started asking people if they also have this problem, and also see this problem with this medical documentation. Everyone confirmed. So I said, hey, so this is an opportunity to actually change something, to make some impact on people's health, on the world, etc. So I also started it. because of that. And then when I was, visiting every doctor that I was visiting, to each of them, I was pitching the startup. And when one of the doctors said that he's interested, I was like, okay, it's a great opportunity. Let's start working together. And now I have another business partner.
Mm-hmm. So and now maybe just the last one, personal, and then maybe go more on your thoughts. So practically the initial part of Pragmatic Coders, you already had customers.
Yeah.
The people they were the people essentially you were doing the consultancy.
Yeah,
But how if you maybe let's say maybe you had the first 5 from your network that were people.
It was only first 2 was from our network.
2. So how did you keep the ball rolling? How did you find the others?
Well, it's called marketing. It's good marketing, and the first 2 clients were from the networking. The first one I described you. The second one was actually a colleague of mine recommended us to some company in Krakow who was also struggling with their software, and we helped them. But as I mentioned before, at the very beginning, we believe that if we only will do the things right, in the right way, the customers will knock to our doors and they will ask to work with them, etc., etc. That wasn't true. It occurred that there is plenty of companies who are claiming that they are doing things right, and there's a lot of companies who are actually doing things in a good way. So there were a lot of competition. There still is a lot of competition. But at that time, we had like a small business, around 12, 13 people, 2 clients for whom we've been like engaged for long-term contracts. So we had like a pretty stable situation. So at that moment, we sit down and we start talking. Okay, so what's next? And at that time, we decided that we need to do something with our promotion, with the way that we will approach new clients. On the very first day, I created a web page, the first web page for Pragmatic Coders, like WordPress, pretty easy, like some free template, and let's start working together, etc. It doesn't look good. It was actually the worst page of software house I ever seen. But it was already there, so it started positioning itself. So it started appearing in some places. We can link. We did linking to this page from other web pages, forums, etc., etc. So there was some traffic, small, but there was some traffic on this page, and we started working on promotion of this page and of our company. And at some time, I decided that I need to stop working for clients to focus more on the marketing and focus more on the promotion. And I was also traveling a lot and presenting at Paris conferences, talking about what we are doing, talking about Scrum, Agile, etc. But actually, that wasn't a good way to find customers. I cannot recall any clients from this kind of activities. I wouldn't say wasted my time because I grow my network, but in terms of the conversion, in terms of the sales, that wasn't the best way to acquire new clients. Most probably it was because I wasn't in the places where our clients was, but I was in the places where our competitors were. So that was maybe that was the issue. So I think that the turning point was at some point we hire also a friend of mine who not hire but used the consulting of a friend of mine who was the marketing consultant, and she helped us with creating the proper marketing strategy for Pragmatic Coders. It took us like 2 weeks of workshops together with her and her team to create this kind of marketing strategy. And after 1 month later, I put all of the strategy to trash. And I decided that okay, it's nothing that we are going to build at Pragmatic Coders, but thanks to this 2 weeks long workshop, I learned how to create such strategies on my own. So I've started working on my own strategy that was more focused on what we actually can do, what our portfolio was, etc. And thanks to that, we figure out that we have experience in 2 or 3 areas. We also have our past experiences in a few areas. There is a market need for 1 or 2 of these areas, so we need to focus on those things. And we start this focused promotion of at that time it was fintech and later on blockchain. That was pretty new thing for everyone in the world, and we're one of the first companies in Poland and one of the first companies in Europe who was actually doing any commercial projects on the blockchain, and that grew our company from, let's say, 20 people to more than 60.
But my question was more like, so it was not just the channel. It's not that you change that you go to a conference or you use, I don't know, Facebook ads or annoying people in forum. It was more that you change the content of the marketing.
Yeah, that was one thing, but in terms of channels and other stuff, we tested a lot. Like it's all about testing, and we still are testing. Like right now, like the market is pretty hard right now. Like year ago, 1.5 years ago, when in the middle of COVID, actually it was like a very easy market for software development companies. Finding clients was pretty easy. Everyone had money to spend on software because there were no other option right now, where the inflation is high, when the interest rate on bonds and other things are pretty high. There is not so much money on the market. So now again, it's a hard time for software development companies for finding customers. So we are still experimenting all of the time with different channels, different sources, different messages. It's all about doing A/B testing and checking what kind of message, what kind of target group, what kind of channel will work. Yeah, and some of
So
these
if you have to
tests.
give an advice, is more like try many things and see what is working. Like try Facebook ads, try personal contact, try I don't know, going in forums in Reddit and try and see which one is.
Yeah, but the most difficult thing in terms of the marketing and kind of actions is that often the results are visible after some time, and the time is sometimes really long, like a half a year of doing one thing constantly shows you that, oh, there is some impact, there are some results. Sometimes it's even a year or even more of one consistent actions that led to some conversion at the end of the day. So it's pretty hard to actually track and see what works. So this kind of experiments require a lot of patience, a lot of patience, a lot of measuring distance from not immediate results. Yeah, so you cannot expect that any action will provide you immediate results. Most of them are not. Some of them, sometimes by accident, provides you immediate results. I can tell you, this is like a crazy story. Like at some moment, when we were like testing different things, and when actually I was starting with learning myself what is marketing, how to do this, I've found out some tutorial in the internet. The tutorial was titled "How to Promote Your Local Business." It's like, oh, how to promote your local business to the internet. I was like, oh, awesome! Like a checklist. There was like a 20 bullet points to promote your local business to the internet. And I like, okay, checklist. Let's one after another check it. So like, start your Google Maps profile, get some reviews there. Start your, I know, some other profile somewhere else. And one of them was build your profile on Yelp. I don't know if you're familiar with Yelp. Is there anyone familiar with that?
Yeah,
I think more common in US, right?
More common in US, and mostly it's common for restaurants or something like this. And when I created the profile, I went through a few other steps, and at the end there was like summary. Now your local restaurants will get more customers. I was like, I was just wasted a lot of time on building promo for restaurants. 1 month later, I had a call. I provided my phone number everywhere. I had a call from US number, and the guy introduced himself. He wasn't speak very clearly, like he was like a little bit chaotic, and he introduced like he's a head of delivery at some company that he named, but I haven't heard the name. And he told me that, yeah, we are interested in working with you. I'm flying to Krakow next week. Would you like to meet? And maybe we'll start cooperation. I was, yeah, of course, feel invited. I will send you our office address, etc. And that was actually all that we set up the date and the time of the meeting. And when he arrived, the accused that he arrived with one of his colleagues. He's like a head of delivery in one of the biggest corporates in the world, one of top 6 or 7 fintech companies in the world. And he visited us because he found us on Yelp. And he visited only 3 companies in Poland, and all of 3 of them he found on Yelp. So he visited us, and he liked what he's seen, and we signed a contract, and that was our biggest client ever that we had at Pragmatic, and that client helped us grow a lot during that time. So there's crazy story of how some crazy things that you do in marketing can lead you accidentally customers, and that was the only call that we get from Yelp, as far as I know. So sometimes even doing crazy stuff can grow your business.
Yeah. There is this thing called guerrilla marketing, where people do strange stuff. They go like to party and they approach people at party where you will never imagine that at the normal party, no business meetings.
Mhm.
So, or people putting stickers, or I heard all crazy stories, and sometimes they work.
Yeah, they are. Like even like we have in Krakow this startup meetups, and there is this party meetup, OMG Karika Summer Jam. I've been there it was last month, I believe, and I also met a lot of brilliant people. With some of them we are still in contact, and we are looking for a chance to cooperate. So like searching for opportunities everywhere is I think the best way to describe how to find the client, how to test your idea with people, how to build your network, etc.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe now more general, more on the kind of work that you do, because you say you are essentially consulting. Okay, maybe we should have said beginning. So you are like consulting also to create company, to startups, to create startups.
We are also providing a startup business consulting services for some of our clients. Some of our clients do not require that. Some of them use this help. Some of them require that and do not use this help. So there are like different stories here. Yes, we are helping startups mainly. Like in a startup, there are 2 dimensions that you need to focus on. One is a product market fit. So the way that you will validate that your product fits to the market. So there are people who want to use your product, but want to pay for your product, want to spend the time on your product, and that's one dimension. And the second one is how to provide the funding for your startup. So those are 2 dimensions that any startup founder needs to focus on. And of course, by funding, I mean could be fundraising from investors, it could be some EU grants, it could be some other ways of collecting money. One of the ways could be like asking your clients, your users, to pay for your app, and like your customers usually are the best way of financing, because everything else is actually taking a loan or actually selling a part of your company to someone else for money, and you are losing control. But collecting money from users is the best way. But if you want to grow exponentially fast, usually you need to have way more money than your users when you're bootstrapping can provide you. So what we do with our clients, we're helping them with the fundraising, we're helping them with preparing for fundraising, with talking to how to talk to investors, how to approach investors, which investors to approach, etc. And in terms of the product market fit, we help our clients in terms of, as mentioned, going to the production fast. One of the best way to validate your hypothesis to actually and to show your product, your real product to the customers. But of course, there is plenty of things that you can do before you go to production to validate your product hypothesis. And this is also what we do at Pragmatic Coders, like with the UX research, UX design, prototyping, etc., market research, competitor analysis. Those are the things that we also provide to our clients to actually help them validate their product market fit of their ideas, and before they will spend a lot of money on building actual product.
So there is this, if I were very, very technical, there is this story that, this different stage of seedings, like normally you have a minimum MVP, or now is more luckily, people are saying you don't even need an MVP, you just go like pre-seeds.
It's like...
Did you see a better result, or is just what people are saying around that it's better to go before the MVP?
I can tell you a story of one of our clients. He actually, before he started working on his product, he pitched it to some of the TikTok guy who was like selecting founders and asking them to pitch the startup in 30 seconds. And like this guy has a lot of, maybe not a lot of, those like 1,000 or 2,000 followers on TikTok, which is not a great number, but like very focused group. And this guy was creating the guy who was pitching it was creating a platform where whenever you pay by your card, in, let's say, McDonald's, they will buy some fractional share of McDonald's shares on the stock, some stocks. So they will be investing on behalf of you in the things that you are using every day. And he started his entire product only with this video where he pitched it for 30 seconds. Like it's like a very well prepared pitch, and it went viral. It had like 2 or 3 million views on TikTok at some point. People were starting to approach him that they want to invest into his startup. So he didn't need to, searching for investors because investors came to him. Of course, he did search for investors because he wanted to have like a huge investors, etc. But he hadn't had any line of code, any product yet. So you don't need to have an MVP to test this kind of hypothesis. Last week, I've seen another great example of a guy who was, I forget what was the startup about, but he had this idea that he will use AI, like everyone right now, he will use AI for something. And he just described it really well. And he offers some very simple thing that this AI, like his prototype, will do for people for free. And the first 100 people who will sign up will also get the possibility to get his future app for free. And at the moment when I saw it, it was somewhere on the LinkedIn, and he asked to everyone who wants to have an access need to comment under this post. When I saw it, it has like 1,500 comments under this post. That's 150, 500 people who already spend their time invested into his idea and who are interested in using the startup. And it was like a post was like a 1 day old. So I can search for it, but I don't know what will happen later. But this is also a way to actually validate
you can, like maybe you can even do these things on purpose, like you make a kind of waiting list.
Exactly. This is exactly what I did with cofounders. Yeah, before we started development, I created a very simple. I don't even create a landing page. It was like too much work for me. I created a Facebook profile.
Just
I only
one
created
form
Facebook.
and you would click.
Not even like this. I created a Facebook profile. I put there like a 5 or 6 AI generated posts and some mid-journey generated pictures for those posts. And then I've started ads on Facebook, like a pretty cheap ads that I targeted to the people who recently visit hospitals. Yeah, like I picked the addresses of the local hospitals, mainly in Krakow and Warsaw. I put it into a Facebook ad, and I targeted people who recently visited hospitals because I decided that might be a group of people who might be interested in this kind of an application. And I asked them to sign up for a waitlist. And I collected I know it was 1 week, and I collected something around 40 or 50 email addresses for our waitlist. And at that moment, I stopped it because I learned that, okay, there is a need for that. I don't need to have 100 or 1,000 people or 2,000 people on the wait list for a product that I'm going to release in 3 or 4 months. Because during this 3 or 4 months, those people will already forget about what I'm doing. But I learned that the cost of acquisition of one person to a waiting list is something around 50 cents, US dollars, 50 cents. So if I can acquire one client for 50 cents, then I can put number into the spreadsheet, and I can already prove my business model that makes sense. So whenever I talk to the investors, I'm telling that they are saying, "Oh, that's interesting."
But instead, going back to the story of maybe going for an MVP or starting without MVP or things like things are not the same if you want to do an app because there are all these no-code app you do in 5 minutes. For medical things is a bit different.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe the one you're planning is still in the data management style, but if there is something more with, I don't know, a device checking something or biometrics, all these things you need to. The story
I know.
Like an EEG device, these things are
more. Especially in this kind of hardware medicine or medical treatments, procedures, diagnosis, etc. Those things require usually some kind of in US FDA approval. In EU also.
That is even a lot. FDA. I was not even thinking FDA. I was even just thinking to get to the MVP. No, FDA will be crazy. It's crazy. Like, but how do you see? Okay, apart the FDA, how do you see this? Do you think the approach is the same? Like, still try to make a waiting list, try to launch as possible, or you need still a minimal validation? Or so, do you find difference between building an app and a medtech?
So whenever you are validating the product, there are 3 things that you need to validate. One of them is the product market fit. This is something that you need to validate and check if people actually need your product. The second thing is to validate if it's actually possible to build what you want in terms of the technology. And I believe that especially in this area of medical stuff and other, like there are things that you can do, but there are things that you cannot do simply. Like, there still technology is not there yet, or there is not enough data or others. So you also need to validate that it's possible to build what you actually want. And the third thing is to validate your business model. And the third thing is actually the least important. Because the first 2 are usually the things that startups fail. So whenever we are talking about validating product, we need to focus on those 3 areas, especially those 2, when you need to check the product market fit and you need to check if it's possible to deliver what you want. And I believe that in terms of the medical product, it's still important to check the product market fit, but it's much more easier than checking if it's possible to build it part. I'm not sure if I'm correct because you are way more familiar with medtech.
Yeah, but you will start always with the product market fit.
I would it's because it's easy and it's cheap.
It's
sometimes better even if you don't know if you will be able to deliver it. It's even better to actually start to check if there is a product market fit or if there is a need on the market. It's still not a product market fit, but if there is a need for a market, then maybe not necessarily always, but maybe it's good to spend a lot of more time to checking if it's possible to build it. So I think it's pretty similar, and with cofounders we started pretty the same way. Like we didn't know how accurate the OCR and other AI model for reading the medical documentation, how accurate they will be. We didn't know that. We started with the product market fit first. We do this wait list, and then we started. Okay, so there is a reasonable number of people who, for 50 cents per person, can sign up for our wait list. So maybe it's worth to actually check if it's possible to read medical documentation. And it occurred. It's not a rocket science. It's doable if you have enough data. So we also started thinking, okay, so what to do to have enough data, because there is not a lot of data. So we need to create a prototype and MVP of an app to provide it to a lot of users who will put a lot of medical documentation that we will later on use to train the AI for better reasons, etc. So checking product market fit and then focusing on the checking if it's possible to build it. I believe it might be a better way, but still, especially in this kind of industry like medtech, there are things that you simply know that are needed. Like if you are going to spend your time on working on the cure for cancer, you may be sure that you have a product market fit. Yeah, like you can be sure that there is a product market fit. You don't need to test it. You don't need to create a wait list for patients to have the cancer medicine. Like you don't need to do this. You know that they will follow, or there are companies who pay for that. Yeah, so.
Okay, then I have maybe the last two quick, and then if somebody else wants to, and then we leave you free. So one is that so I'm one thing I learned from actually I learned it from these no-code apps. I didn't know before. I thought that apps were just web pages. Instead, I noticed that there is like a flow of what the user sees on, or even how you make this the page you use. Like there's this Figma, or so it's an entire universe.
Yeah.
How do you think how much do you think this is important? And then maybe the other question, if you want to, like, we have been exploding with AI and LLM, large language model is like now at even too much. I'm hearing every 5 seconds, it's even too much. Like, how do you see that these things are impacting general any kind of startup? Because now everything is LLM. I have a medtech connected to a language model. I have a delivery guy looking into these things. I am the guy in the tax summarizing the tax. Like, how do you see these two things, like user experience and language models?
So actually, you asked like 3 questions in one, but but let's answer all of them one after another. So in terms of the no-code, low-code things, we also have been experimenting with that a lot. Healthfolder, the mobile app, is built in the no-code, or actually low-code, which is called Flutterflow right now. We used to build it in a different low-code before, and it wasn't as good as it is as a Flutterflow. So Flutterflow, in terms of the, I'm not promoting this tool, but I can admit that it's one of the best no-code tool I have seen so far. And that tool speed ups development a lot. But there is one thing that is very important in terms of no-code and low-code. Like everyone could use no-code to build their app, but if a person who is using it do not understand those things that you mentioned, that there is a flow, that there are some algorithms beneath this surface that you built in a no-code, such a person will make a lot of mistakes that will be very hard to fix, and that will actually cause that the app that person will build will not be possible to develop further or change or improve, or in many cases it won't be even possible to finish it to go to production. So what I recommend, what I see that works is that still it's better when someone who is a software developer is using no code than someone who is not totally connected to the IT. So that's the part of no. In terms of the AI and the growth of popularity of it, so I believe that we only touched this topic. Like we are at the very beginning of this story. Like LLM is something that is, in terms of the things that AI is possible to do, LLM is something that's really simple actually. But it's very spectacular because it's like every person can use it, can touch it, can feel it, can play with it, can use it for work. Yeah, like most of people right now who are more or less technology advanced are using LLM like ChatGPT or other to their work, and they are speeding up their work. And at some point, many of those people will become replaceable by AI, and or at least they are already replaceable by people who are using AI. So I was always saying that it's not AI who will that will replace people, but the people who are using AI efficiently will replace those who are not. So I believe this is something that we are already facing. That change already happened. But if we are talking about, again, software developers and development of products, that also is something that people who are developing the products using AI are usually much faster than those who are not. And I can give you an example of one of our cases that two guys were sitting for the entire day to find some problem, some issue in their code. And they asked the third one, and the third one asked them if they check with ChatGPT if they ask ChatGPT to solve it. They said no, and they are crazy or something. You just copy paste those codes to the ChatGPT, and in the 15 seconds he get an answer what's wrong and proposition how to fix it. 15 seconds compared to 8 hours of the people. So that's the difference between people who are using AI and those who are not using AI in terms of the performance, in terms of the effect. And as I mentioned, like we are only starting with AI. Like we are at the very beginning of this, and there is a lot of things that could be done much better with AI, and there is a lot of people who are currently working on that. And I believe that we are living in a very interesting time because we had a huge chance to see the probably the greatest progress in the entire history of humankind that will happen during lifespan of one person. So I know, like we already are in these times because let's say 20 years ago, none of us has a smartphone. Yeah? So right now we have in our pocket a computer that has more RAM, more CPU than the computers that were used to fly to the moon. And so still, like we are already in this time in the history where we are facing this kind of technological revolution that's moving pretty fast. So it's very interesting to watch it, and we can only expect that there will be more and more things. And also, in terms of the business, in terms of the startups, it's a very interesting time because it was like somewhere in the 2004, 6, 5 internet bubble happened. 2003 too. Internet bubble happened. And
yeah, I was thinking about that. I was imagining
Yeah.
now where is this OpenAI exploding? Actually, I've been
so
maybe they will actually. I'm guessing it.
So
But
it's a great
then
time
the OpenAI is not right now. It's the monopoly right now, almost the monopoly because everybody is just using the API from OpenAI. So there is a small minority.
I wouldn't say it's monopoly, but in terms of the LLM, yes. In terms of the LLM, most of people are using this. But there are like
I'm
other
hoping that there will be, even if there is the bubble and even if OpenAI will go bankrupt, I think that then we will more stabilize, or this is my guess. I don't know if.
Well, Google didn't went bankrupt, or Facebook didn't went bankrupt of the 2008 crisis. So
They went a bit down, but then they still then.
Yeah, so I don't think that those big companies will suffer from if the bubble will blow up. But what from one hand it's a bubble, yeah, but from the other hand, it's a lot of opportunities again, yeah. So anything that you could do right now without AI, you can figure out how to improve that with AI. And of course, there will be like the same that was with the blockchain, NFTs, etc., that will put tokens to do anything, and that doesn't make any sense. And in most cases, in some cases it did, but in vast majority of cases, it doesn't make any sense. But in terms of the AI, I would say that maybe even in the 50% of cases, things that you can improve your performance or your effects or whatever effectiveness thanks to an AI, in the 50% of cases, it's actually worth to do this. It's actually worth to use AI for that. So there is a product market fit for that, or maybe not product market, but problem solution fit. In most of the cases, or maybe in half of the cases where people are trying to use AI. So that's the difference between the AI bubble and blockchain bubble, for example. But still, in time of the internet bubble, the .com bubble, the problem there was that there was a lot of websites, a lot of web apps that was doing pretty the same. And the same is happening with LLM, as I said, like there is an LLM for that, LLM for another, etc. I'm pretty sure that soon there will be an LLM that will be combining all of these LLMs together because the results will be better for that. But still, I can provide you a great example of an app that I discovered yesterday. And that was an app that used LLM for podcast, for listening the podcast and transcribing it. But it's not about the transcription, but you receive like a summary of a podcast episode. So if you will put this episode to the Spotify, you can upload or request the summarizing this episode, and then you can ask questions to those episodes. So based on the content that we provided here, people who will be asking the questions, they will get the answer based on what we said. Like you can ask what Wiktor thinks about the AI development.
And it's not Perplexity.
No.
So there is
something different. Like, well, like as you said, that's the bubble because there's plenty of things that will be doing pretty the same things, and they will start competing.
There is Perplexity AI is doing this, so I was wondering they copied.
Yeah, so as you see, like this is for the first look, it looks like a bubble, but still, like some of those applications will survive, some of them will succeed. Not all of them, of course, like maybe 1 or 2%, but it's worth to try, please.
Okay, I think you have been talking to us a lot, or at least with me. So maybe now, if anyone here, so there's essentially PhD students and postdocs from the lab that some of them are considering to do something after PhD, doing a startup or something, or someone is just curious, someone is scared. But anyway, everyone can choose what they want. But maybe now, guys, if you want to ask something, nobody.
Actually, I would like to. Well, can you see me? Give me a second.
No, we can hear.
Yep.
I waited from the open space. Hello. So thanks, Wiktor, for your talk. It was like really interesting. Actually, also congratulations on your courage because like you did some badass moves, especially in the beginning. And I wonder, like, how long have you been working in a companies or in the market overall as an employee before you decided that you want to go somewhere else?
Really good question. I was working for maybe for 3 or 4 years as an employee, so it was pretty short time actually. But like it was a little bit, let's say, a little bit longer because. As I mentioned, I was starting as a tester. Then I started more like a QA engineer, and then Andy Brandt, who later on offered me becoming a partner at cofounders, he first offered me to become a QA lead in one company in Wrocław before he offered me this partnership. And that was actually a test for me if I will fit to become his business partner. And that was also a part of being on the regular job, but also it was something that was much closer to being a consultant at that time. So there was this 1 year of let's say this 3 or 4 years working on a full-time job, and 1 year of this transition to becoming a consultant. But I was a consultant with one major client, and then with later on with few smaller clients added to that. So it was smooth transition. It wasn't like a one point in time. Now I'm
of course.
my day-to-day job.
And do you think like your commercial experience gave you some useful knowledge for the, obviously it did to some extent, but do you think, I'm asking from our perspective, because like we are doing purely research, and most of the people that are now listening and were working with us, we are not involved in the commercial market, so we are doing research. And do you think that this kind of experience has been like helpful, necessary? How do you view it?
So, in my case, like my experience was pretty short, so it wasn't a lot, but it was very focused on the niche. Yeah, so I was one of very few people, very few people in Poland who actually had any experience in working in agile Scrum teams. So even with my pretty short experience, I was, much more experienced in that small area than most of the people on the market. So focus on that niche allowed me to actually teach people in that niche. If they started asking questions about, things that I haven't know, I simply answer, okay, that's not my area. You need to find another expert. But getting back to your question, in terms of the being researcher and not facing the market, how could it benefit to starting a business? You know what? Like most of the people who are starting business, they do not have any experience with the market, even if they think they do. If they are not, regular or serial entrepreneurs, they usually do not have an experience. Like a first-time entrepreneur never have an experience to face the market, even if they are working on the marketing or in sales department or fundraising company. If they haven't built their own product, they are not experienced in actually working with the market. So you are you have equal chances to anyone other there. So you should not be afraid to actually go to the market and start it. You can figure out your own way how to do this in a safe way. You don't need to give up everything what you are doing, and now I will be entrepreneur. I need to give up my job and do anything else. You can start, for example, with taking off 1 day a week to focus on your own business. This is just 20% of your salary less. Let's say I'm unpaid 1 day a week, and this is only decrease of 25% of your salary. Next year you will get the rise of your salary, so you will compensate that. And in case you will fail, you can always say, okay, I want to get back for a full-time job. And this 1 day a week could be enough to actually see if that's something for you, see if your ideas had chance to face the market and to do something. Of course, it won't be, I'm working only on Friday, and if there is some issue on Tuesday, I will not do this. No, you will do this, but after your regular work. But that should be enough time to actually see if this is something for you or not.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it did perfectly. Thanks. And maybe last one about like the types of cooperation with companies and with the market that you as a software house, basically a software provider, go into. So recently I've heard, I'm just like asking out of curiosity, because normally like you come to software house, you like give the specification more or less precise. We all know how it looks like. And then like you iterate, somehow communicate to develop the project. You release the final version, hand it out to the client, and then like, okay, we are done. Also, there are like body leasing corporations, but do you go into like businesses like let's say someone comes to you with like an interesting or promising product, they have like part of the team maybe or maybe not, someone who's developing that, and you like join as a like a shareholder or someone like that because you see, for example, that project sparked your attention, and then you join and like provide your knowledge, your experience, probably your human resources also from the software house, and like you co-develop that to obviously share the benefits and share the cash when the product hits the market. So how it's done on the market, and how do you view that?
So starting from the beginning, so yeah, the way you describe that people or companies are cooperating with the software house, that they have specification and they want things to be done, etc. This is exactly the way that it shouldn't be done, but most of the companies in the market are doing. So thank you for that. Yeah, so that's the model that is, of course, to some extent, it is effective, but it's not optimal, and it can be much more efficient if you will start working with the software provider on a more partnership rules than just provider and sponsor setup. Especially when you separate thinking about the product from building a product, you cannot expect the results that will be good. So any kind of cooperation where both parties are thinking and are involved in the product are okay. But answering your question, are we doing this kind of partnerships where we take shares for providing the cooperation? Well, we are open for that, but there is one thing that is mandatory there. Like we are not doing the work for free, so we can provide a lot of discount in terms of of our raise for shares, but also we don't want to be only one shareholder. So we do this kind of stuff only if the client or partner manage to fundraise the money from venture capital or from other investors, etc. So if there are other investors who are already involved, and that means that they did due diligence, they understand the market, they understand the product, they see that there is a potential in the market in the product, then we are able to consider also investing into it, investing through our work, or even cash. Like that's not all. That's also a case we can do this, but only if there is another investor. So we are never a lead investor in startups because we are not an investment company.
Okay,
so we are open
thanks.
for that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay,
So
I would
that's
say no more than a few minutes. Also, unless someone has other technical questions. No, okay. So then I think we have been speaking a lot. So thank you for your time and your sharing your experience. I always think that saying how things start, like how you find your co-founder, how you got the idea, these are generally things very inspirational.